Bree will be speaking as our second to last student sermon series speaker. Just casting vision on what that means. So for the past few weeks, we've been having some of our student leaders and others in the community, students here at Princeton, give a talk and have the Lord speak to them. So yeah, tonight Bree will give hers. And so yeah, I'll just pray her in, and I know it'll be a blessing. So, Lord God, just once again, thank you for Bree, and thank you for choosing to speak to her, Lord. Tonight, please bless her with knowledge and wisdom and how best to serve the community and how best to reach out to your people. And once again, Lord, please just place in our hearts the desire to be open with you and to truly just give ourselves to you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen.
Hey guys. I don't know. Yeah? I'll show you. No, I'm actually really good. I was really blessed by worship. I feel like God really showed up. So I pray that we also met you guys so far and we had had a really cool. So tonight, I'm going to be talking on Psalm 91, and the title of my talk is about the safety of God. It's about the protection of God, and I feel like we are taught so many things about who God is to us. You know, our protector, our Father, you know, the love of our souls, our bridegroom, king, all these different things. And it's like, oh yeah, check, I know God's dad, I know God's dad. I learned that in Sunday school, and that's not really what I want this talk to be about. Just like checking off that we are familiar with this category that God supposedly falls into. I really want us to really grapple with ways in which we have had to really come to terms with what it means for Him to be our protector in a dying, broken world, full of so much pain and full of so much danger. So I really just want to ask you guys to just like go there with me, and I just pray that God would help us to just break down the walls as we kind of talk through that. Yeah, God, I just pray that you would just prepare the hearts of every person here, God, for what you want to do, Lord. Each and every one of us, I know that you want to speak to us in a personal way, and illuminate something about the way that you are personally moving in our lives, God. And so I just pray that you would have your way, that you would allow your words to go forth, Lord, that you would increase and I would decrease, God. In Jesus' name we pray. This topic is very important to me because it's something that I've really had to grapple with a lot since I've been at Princeton. And since I've been here, I think that, you know, I came in thinking I knew God is my protector, but then I found myself asking, you know, from certain experiences, is God my protector? If so, then why did He allow X, Y, Z? You know, if he's allowing this to happen, then how is He protecting me in the midst of this? I don't feel very protected. And you know, if God allows me to go through X, Y, Z, then why? Then will it even be worth it in the end, or will I have just gone through all of this for nothing? So those are some of the questions that I have really wrestled with, and I'm really hoping that you guys can grapple with those with me tonight as well. I'm just going to share a little bit of background about how I came to be asking those things, and hopefully share some of the ways that I think God has answered me, and maybe share some tips that can help us all kind of wrestle through those things. And so I would just love to start if we could just like read the psalm aloud together, because there's power in the word of God. Amen. Okay. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For He will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His pinions, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at And so I grew up Christian. I grew up in a church that like what I call or what I've heard called like a word church, like a lot of churches have their focuses. For some churches, worship. For some churches, discipleship. My church was like the word. Like every sermon had like at least 20 scriptures that we were like going through. Anything the pastor said, he would back it up with a scripture, and never expected us to take his word for anything. So it's like, this, like I knew this. Like I knew, God, good shepherd, like my protector, my father. But in college, everything that I thought I knew about God, my protector, was kind of like shaken up. As I kind of endured some of the hard Jesus.
Go breathe.
At Princeton, I've like gone through what I feel like are some of the hardest seasons of my life, and I think it's relative. Like I'm sure people have gone through worse things, but for me, it's been pretty hard. And I felt like going to a word church. It's like we also talk a lot about the power of the word, right? And so it's like I just thought like, if you know the word of God, if you know the promises of God, if you pray, if you follow God's guidance, then like your life should be pretty smooth sailing, And if things happen to me that like weren't ideal, I would be like, oh, that happened because God was trying to warn me about that, but I didn't listen, and He was trying to protect me, but I just disobeyed, so that's why that happened, Other than that, I was like, as long as I can just follow God, then I'll be great. Like it won't be, anything too bad. And so in college, I kind of felt like I was doing that. I was like, I know that I need to follow God. Like I know I need to follow His guidance. I know that like relationships are purposeful, and I should like pursue friendships as I feel called by God. I should pursue X, Y, Z as I feel called by God, and that's what I'll do. And it should be a pretty great Princeton career. But yet, I watched a lot of things that I felt like I was called to invest in, felt like I was called to pour myself into it, and did pour myself into a lot, especially like friendships and relationships. Like I just like watched them like spontaneously combust, and not like I understand like some friendships are seasonal and sometimes you drift apart from people. It's not the same as like old high school friends and you just kind of like graduate and go separate ways. Like very, very painful severs to relationships like that left me feeling abandoned, betrayed, confused, and just like misguided, because I'm like, God, I thought that you called me to these. I thought you called me to these friendships or these relationships, X, Y, Z, and it's like, why is everything like going so badly? And I was just like I could have sworn I felt you leading me into this. What kind of father like leads their child into something they know is gonna like wreck them, And so those questions that I mentioned at the beginning, that I was asking about like, is God my protector? If so, why did He allow X, Y, Z? If so, how is He protecting me in this? Will it be worth it? Those are the questions that I kind of want to grapple with you guys tonight. And so the first thing that I was obviously asking was like, why did this happen? Like clearly I missed God somewhere. Like I didn't follow His guidance. Like I was disobedient. I missed some sort of red flags, etc., etc. Because this was just my theology. I had some pretty like bad theology. Like just to be honest, like I just thought like I just had to do something wrong in order for something bad to happen to me. And honestly, sometimes that's the case. Sometimes when something bad happens to you, it is because you missed God. Sometimes it is because you were foolish. But I also had to reckon with the fact that sometimes that's not it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you were doing what you felt led to do. You were doing what God was calling you to do. But there was just an attack from the enemy, or maybe a test that God allowed you to walk into. I guess I just wasn't really grappling with the fact that like even Jesus was led into the wilderness to be tested. I think there were just certain parts of God's word that I had other explanations for that like didn't include like it being like God ordaining or allowing something like suffering. But yeah, like really, like whether it's prayerlessness or foolishness or an attack or a test, one thing that it shouldn't be, suffering in this world, is strange. And that's something that I just had to learn. 1 Peter 4:12 says, Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though something strange is happening to you. It's like, and this word comes recognizing the fact that we will, when things hit the fan, it's like you start thinking like, what's going on, like what happened, you know? But it's not actually that uncommon for things to hit the fan in this broken world. And so what I want to tell you guys and what I had to learn is, don't be Job's friends to yourself. Like, y'all know like the story of Job, how he had everything like stolen from him, everything, like he was a good man. Like there was a conversation between the devil and God, and like it was like, look, like my servant Job is good people. And you know, like the devil was like, well, I bet he only loves you because you're protecting him. And if you were to like lift that hedge of protection, he wouldn't like honor you. And God was like, all right, try him. And like a lot of bad stuff happened to Job. He lost his children, his cattle, his wealth, like his health, like just a lot. And he hadn't done anything wrong. Like, you know, there are some theologies, and I think I had to subscribe to this at one point, that he brought this on himself because he feared that it would happen to him. That, like, you know, he said at one point in the chapter that my greatest fears come upon me. And so it's like, oh, like some people say, oh, Job opened the door because he was afraid that this was going to happen. Is there such thing as opening doors to fear? I don't know, probably, maybe. But I don't think that's what, I mean, like God was clear. Job was a good dude, you know what I mean? But yet he was allowed to be tried. And the thing is, his friends just kept telling him, like, you must have done something wrong. In order for this to be happening to you, you must have done something. You must have missed God. You must have sinned. You need to repent. And like, that's what I was doing to myself. I was just like, what did I do wrong? Like, it had to be me, because I know God wouldn't let this happen. Like, what did I do? Like, were there some red flags? And maybe there were. I think there were. But like, on the whole, I'm just like, even if there were red flags, like, why did God like do like a whole red thing across the wall for me to avoid this? You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really help to like obsess over what you did wrong in order for something to happen to you. And sometimes things will happen to you and it's of no fault of your own. A lot of times, probably. It's just because you're a target, because you're a child of God, and you're going to do great things in this world, and the enemy doesn't like that. And we're in a world where our love and for God and our identity is going to be tried, but it's not so that it can be shaken, so that it can be proven. And so yeah, after I got over this idea of blaming myself, I started blaming God. I was like, okay, so I didn't do anything. What are you doing? Like, what tip are you on to like let me like go into this? How is it that you're my protector? What kind of protector? Like, my earthly father wouldn't let this happen to me if he saw it coming. Why are you, my heavenly father, my perfect father? Why would you let it happen? I don't, you know, like God always talks about how he's better than our earthly parents, and I just couldn't understand how, like, if my earthly father, I know if he saw me going in the wrong direction, he'd be like, Brie, like, no, like, go this way. You know, like, and I even had experienced God doing that to me before. Why not this time, you know? I just didn't understand it. I was just like, how can you be my protector with all this bad stuff happening? But I think we should look back at the text, back at Psalm 91, to really understand what it is that God has promised as far as like being our protector. It says, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. It says, he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. Somehow I had interpreted this to mean that I just wouldn't even like see destruction. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just wouldn't even, like, it would, like, you know, it says it won't come near you. Like, I thought, like, I just won't, it won't even be in my, like, God is going to protect me from it. So, like, say the attack is coming from that way, God's over there, he's got it, I'm over here. I won't ever even see it. I won't know about it, you know? But I don't think that's what this text is necessarily saying. My refuge, my fortress. A refuge is a place that you run to in a time of danger, right? A fortress is a hiding spot for a war. When there's like bullets flying, like bombs being catapulted in your direction, like people trying to kill you to your face. Not even behind your back on some good stuff, like to your face, like I want you dead, you know, and God's your highest sense, you know. This psalm is not a guarantee that there won't be any danger. It actually presupposes danger. But it also gives us invaluable insight about how we can relate to God in the midst of danger. God is not our protector unless there is danger or in spite of danger. He is our protector precisely because we're surrounded by danger. And we don't fear because there's not pestilence waiting in the noonday. I don't even know what pestilence is, like a sickness or something. I'm sorry. I should have looked up all the translations so I could tell you what it means in Greek, but I'm not like a biblical scholar yet. But it actually says it's definitely waiting there. Like the pestilence, whatever it is, fill in the blank. It could be anything. You know, we all go through things: loss, like betrayal, failure, disappointment. Sickness, it could be anything, but whatever it is, it's waiting there. Like, there's not really a question about that in this text. And in turmoil, like, it's just a function of us being in this world. In order for us to not have to see any of it, like I was thinking I would in my Christian life, God would have to take us out of the world. But that's not what Jesus prayed for us. When he prayed the high priestly prayer, if you guys remember that, in John 17, he said, "The world has hated them because they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one." God knows in this world we will have tribulation. But in the midst of it, he's promising to keep us from the evil one. It's like, how will you ever know God as your defender if you never face a fight? You know? How will you know him as your protector if you never face a threat? I mean, honestly, if you just went through life without anything, like, yeah, you would say God's my protector, but it would be a very shallow understanding of protection because you don't even know about anything that ever came against you. You know? You're just like, yeah, he's protecting me. I'm sure there was supposed to be something, but I'm chilling, you know? And that's great, and that's real, right? Like, there is such thing as him preventing things that were supposed to come against us that he doesn't allow to get through. That is real, and I don't want to downplay that in this talk. That's just not what this talk is about. Because I'm talking about when it was I feel like it's easy to grapple with him defending us against things and it never getting to us. But what about when it feels like things actually do get through, or when it feels like things are actually happening, right? That's where my faith got kind of challenged, and so that's kind of where I want to meet you guys. But God's preventative protection is real. Know that there are attacks that are supposed to be coming against you that God is protecting you from every day. And even when things do come against you, it probably was meant to be worse, but God promised that he wouldn't allow it to be any more than you could bear. So even when it feels like there's an attack that came, you can guarantee that you were still protected even in the midst of that. Right? But yeah, all of the promises of God, I just think that I was kind of misinterpreting them a little bit. Like it says, if God is for us, who can be against us? It doesn't mean that no one's going to come against you. It means when they stand, they won't prevail against you, right? When it says God is in her midst, she will not be shaken, it's not because nothing's going to come and try to shake you up. It's because something will try to shake you up, but God will hold you firm, right? When it says no weapon formed against you shall ever prosper, weapons will be formed. They just won't prosper, right? And one that I like, that I think is translated differently sometimes, it says, in God I will praise his word, and God hath my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do unto me. Some people say, I will not fear what can flesh do unto me. But the KJV, if some of y'all old school, that Black Baptist church, they do the KJV, right? It says, I will not fear what flesh can do unto me. It's like a recognition that there are things that man can do to you. I mean, I'm sure we can think of a few things that people have done to us that have been pretty hurtful. But the thing is, in our life, we don't have to be afraid of that because we trust in God, right? And so, God is our protector. He is our protector. He is our safety. He is our safety. And we don't have to trust in smooth sailing circumstances for that to be his identity. As a matter of fact, sometimes when we're hit the worst, that's when it comes out the most. There was a story that I heard in church the other day, and it talked about this dude who was running a marathon or a race. I think it was a race. And he like tore his hamstring or something like that. And like he fell and he was like writhing in pain, like so much agony, like all on the ground, and like could barely get up. But he decided he was going to try to get up. And like the next thing you know, like through the crowd, like somebody is like knocking down, like knocking down people, like jumping over like fences trying to get to this dude. Just like pushing down all barriers to get to him. And what he does is when he gets down there, he like puts his arm over his shoulder and like helps him limp through the rest of the race, or like until he can gain his strength back. And it turns out, in this particular story, I don't know if it's true or false, that was his father. And what the preacher said at my church was his crippled condition revealed through who his father was. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, like I just broke down crying when I heard that, because like it's so true. Like when I think about the things that I've been through, not even claiming I've been through the worst of things, but when I was like the most broke down, like the most hurt, like that's when it became clear like who my father was and how he was there for me. And that's the next part I want to talk to you guys about, you know. If the question is, you know, okay, God is still my protector even though he would allow this to happen, the next question I would ask is like, in the midst of allowing this to happen, how are you still protecting me? How are you still moving on my behalf, right? And I wanted to say something about like these questions that I'm asking, because like my whole talk is centered on questions. I wanted to mention that I really think it's important that we know that it's okay to bring our questions to God. Like these why questions, these what are you doing questions. Like, you could call it blasphemy, but that would be very ultra-religious. You know, like to be like, God, like, what the heck are you doing? You know what I mean? Like I think that we do fear God, we do honor God. But it doesn't help our relationship with him if we just hide these kind of like festering questions and frustrations from him. Like it doesn't. Like it's not any more honoring to him if you're thinking, what the heck, God? But you're like, I praise you. Like he knows everything. You know what I mean? So like something that I really hope is that you guys can take away from this is that like these questions are okay to ask, and God is not intimidated by our questions, and God is not even offended at our questions. He's our Father. And I really want to make a point about cultural differences, because I know that in Black families, like it can be very authoritarian, like it's because I said so, like don't question me, like da 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 da. Like I was raised like that, and like well not quite like that. My parents were a little bit more permissive, but like in that area, and like I think God is more like the white parents. Like in this particular aspect. You know, like sorry, and I mean this in a general sense. Like, you know, like we have these stereotypes about how like Black parents like because I said so, like don't question me, da da da. And white parents like, okay, Jimmy, what do you want to know? Like I can tell you like why. Like we can talk about this. I can explain I think being raised in a family where you're not allowed to question your parents can give you a little bit of a warped position about how you relate to God. No shade to Black families. I love my parents. I think they're great parents. And I think there's a good thing about having your kids under control, because kids can be wild. But like in this particular instance, I think it's important to break out of that particular mold or like mode of operating and recognize where God is a little bit different than our parents. Like his relationship with us is like the most intimate relationship that we ought to have. And so I would think about talking to him about your frustrations, more like talking to like a spouse, where you can be like really honest, you're dealing with equals almost. And it's not that God is our equal, but it's just that like, I don't know, like, I just think as a parent, like he really wants us to be able to come to him with our frustrations and with things that upset us. And I think that there's intimacy in that. I think that there's beauty in that. And it deepens your relationship with him when you can bring those questions to him and wrestle through it, you know, and still move forward. You know, Jacob was blessed because he wrestled with God, you know. And it was a process, right? Like he wrestled with God and then he clung to God, you know. And like that's something that I remember someone speaking over me. Like I feel like you're in a season of wrestling with God, but what's going to happen is you're going to go from wrestling to clinging, but you have to go through that wrestling phase if you have those frustrations and those questions building. If you just try to cling to God without wrestling, when you have all these questions that you're grappling with on your own, it's just going to create this weird, like, intimate but distant type thing going on, you know? And he just wants what's real with us. And I just want to say that also when you're wrestling with God, that doesn't have to inhibit your worship. So it's not like I'm wrestling with God and so I can't worship him until we get this thing figured out. God, how are you good at X, Y, Z, like I'm not going to praise you. Like, no, that's not what I mean. I think that there is such thing as worshiping God even in the midst of your questions, right? Because what does the psalmist say? I will say of the Lord, he is my fortress, right? I will say of the Lord. It's about honoring his name and honoring who he is, even in the midst of danger, even in the midst of questions, right? And worshiping is an act of the will. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even if we don't feel like we don't understand how he's our fortress, we can still say, like, God, I know you're my fortress, but I just need you to show me how this thing works, you know? And so, and just know that, like, God is constant, right? Like a fortress in war is like, it's going to be where you left it the last time that you like walked away and like didn't have to be hiding, right? Like God is constant, and that's what we can worship from. It's just like understanding that he is constant. Like what other, there's also language in the text that talks about dwelling, right? He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. So there's a constancy about God's presence and his ability and his willingness to be our protector that just doesn't change even when the enemy opens fire on us, right? And so I just want you guys to know that like worshiping God and wrestling with God are not mutually exclusive. And worship is to ascribe worth to something, right? And so to me, worship when you're really upset about something that's going on in your life is saying, God, you're still worthy to be pursued, even when I don't know what to think about you in this whole protector role. You know, like I'm still going to bring myself to you as an offering, even when I don't necessarily feel like I'm totally at peace with everything that's going on and how I feel towards you about this right now. That's still worship, and that's acceptable. And I really think that God wants people to know that, because that was a misconception that I had. It was that wasn't acceptable. But it is. And it's still just as valuable to him, if not more, than worshiping him in the good times. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to stop and say that. But moving on to just like how God is protecting us. Make sure I'm good on time. How God is protecting us in the midst of everything that's going on. Say it's one of those. So like one thing my pastor said at my church is like sometimes God takes you out the fire, takes you around the fire. Other times he makes you fireproof, right? And so what I want to talk about is like say this is not a time when he's taking you out the fire, but you're actually in the fire. How is God still your protector in the midst of that, right? That Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego type, like Jesus with you in the fire, right? What does that look like? And I think it looks like a few things, and I think I want to return to the text to gain some insight on that. And it says, because he holds fast to me in love, I will deliver him. I will protect him because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. Another part of it says, he will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear. And so it's in hard times when it's like easiest to be like, how is this actually true? How is God actually protecting me? But it's in hard times when we should lean on those promises the most, right? And so for example, he said that under his wings he'll cover us, right? And he allows us to hold fast to him in love. And so when you're in the fire, when you're in the hard times, you should know that God is covering you and that he is surrounding you. We already talked about how he's probably protecting you from things that you didn't even know about. And like, for example, like, you know, like I could look back at relationships that I think spontaneously combusted, and I can also say, you know, I'm not sure that they would have gone down a healthy path if they had continued. You know what I mean? And it's like that really hurt that that it ended that way. But maybe that was even a form of protection, right? So sometimes even the actual painful situation itself is God protecting you from something. Other times, it's just the fact that he is like very, very near, like closer than your breath, right? I remember Rachel. And I want to tell you about how God checked me on the whole like protecting you even when you don't know like what else could be coming against you thing. Like I remember just like I think I was just like kind of ranting at God a little bit about how like I just felt like he wasn't like protecting me. Like I like honestly guys, like I was getting kind of like snarky with him because I was just like, I would read verses about protection and I'd be like, huh, like God protecting me with all this crazy stuff going on in my life. What are you talking about, right? But I just remember him like, have you guys seen that line where it's just like, or maybe it's a meme when it says like somebody's complaining about your crazy driving and then you're like, but did you die though? I'm not gonna lie, I really feel like God checked me like that. Like I feel like he was like, wait, did you die though? I really feel like God was saying to me, like, do you recognize that the attacks that the enemy brings against you are meant to destroy you? Do you recognize that they're meant to leave you completely obliterated, unrecognizable, without any function in my kingdom? So did you die though? Is that what you are right now? Like, no. Like, Bree, like, chill. Like, you're still here. Like, I'm not gonna let you just like turn into fairy dust. Like you didn't die. Like this is gonna be okay, right? And when you have an enemy that wants to still kill and destroy your entire calling in life, sometimes hard situations you go through, you have to recognize like I didn't die. You know what I mean? Like, and God is like really, he's still protecting me because like this is not actually destroying me like I think it is. And so I mean, that's an answer. It's about, like the text says he'll answer you, right? Like, it doesn't always mean that he'll answer you like, okay, Jimmy, like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. But no, like, God is like, he's holy, right? So when we do question him, he might humble us. Like, do y'all remember the story of Job? How he questioned God? And God was like, where were you when I was creating the sea and the land and everything else that is in existence? And like, you know, like he was just like, are you questioning me? Like, but that was an answer. And that was an answer that was given in love because God is love. And so even like if he has to correct us, like he corrects those whom he loves, you know what I mean? And other times like he'll comfort us. And that's how he loves us. But in any case, he will answer us. And so that was the other thing. He is delivering you. So not only is he covering you from things that you don't see, but he's delivering you from whatever you're in. It says that he will break the snare of the fowler, right? Whatever trap it is that you feel like you wandered into, like God is going to break it and set you free. Like he is going to deliver you. Like there's just not a question. It says, I will deliver him because he knows my name. Period. So like whatever it is, it's not going to last forever and it's not going to take you out because God is your deliverer. God is your deliverer. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just not up for questions whether he's going to deliver you. It's just not. And so about him answering you when you call, like he also speaks very comforting words. I remember when I was going through stuff. I just remember him through my friends, by his word in the morning, like him just really strengthening me by speaking over me. I remember it was to the point where I did not want to get out of bed, y'all. I did not want to get out of bed in the morning, and I was just like in my bed, and it wasn't like I just didn't want to, like I'm lazy, like I felt heavy. You know what I mean? Like I would just wake up and feel heavy, like you don't want to move and you just want to stay there for a while. Like I had mornings like that. And I would literally have to read the word, and I'm telling you, I would read the word and I would feel strength come into my spirit in order to carry me through the day. You know? He strengthened me by his word. He spoke to me by his word and by his spirit illuminating the text to me. He also spoke over me, and through that, that's a form of protection, right? Speaking over us, because when he's speaking over us, he's protecting us from hopelessness, you know? He's protecting us from a loss of identity. Because you know, these things you can go through things and you can start thinking like, who am I? You know, like what is my life? You know, all these existential questions, because we can be kind of doing that thing, right? But he will speak words of reassurance and comfort to you. You know, his perfect love will cast out your fear, right? By the things that he speaks to you. He spoke destiny over me, and that's something that was really encouraging, especially with my friends when they would just pray over me. He would just speak about the great plans that he had for me and reassure me. And even if you don't have friends that are praying this over you, like it's in the word, right? So press into that. Like the great plans that he has, the great things that he's doing, the great things that he's working out, even if I don't understand it yet, right? The weight of glory that's coming that doesn't compare to what I'm going through, right? And so that's all a form of protection, that comfort. And just like his truth, like it says that his faithfulness is a shield and a buckler. So like when you're being grounded in his truth by the prayers of your friends, by his word, that's like what a belt is, like a buckler. Like it's like keeping you on balance, right? So he's giving you his word to keep you there, right? And the other thing is that he's growing you and he's teaching you. And I think this is the interlude that annoys me the most. So I saved it for last, but because sometimes I'm just like, okay, can we grow some other time? I thought I was okay the way I was. But in all seriousness, he is, right? He is growing you and teaching you things. James reminded me of this analogy of an eagle stirring up its nest. An eagle will create a nest for its babies, right? And it's it nurses them there and kind of takes care of them in their infancy. But then when it's time for them to start flying, the mother eagle takes out the very comfortable cotton type whatever stole from the grass or whatever to make it more comfortable. Take that out. And James talks about how the baby eagle would then be kind of pricked by the nest, and it would have to get up and fly, you know. And I think that's real, you know, when I was put in these situations, I was put in a situation where I needed to do things that I didn't know I could do. You know, we all have these Bible verses. Oh, love your enemies. Pray for those who despitefully use you, and da-da-da-da. And it's okay, Jesus, I got you. It's easy to say that when you don't have any enemies. You know? Yeah, I love my enemies. I love everybody. I used to say that in high school. I love everybody. It's cute, but what was the substance to it? There weren't people in my life that were that hard to love. But you know, when you start feeling like people are betraying you, when you start feeling like people are doing you dirty, there's some practice. There's a chance to love your enemies, right? And I was able to serve and love people who were really, really hurting me. And in a way that I just wouldn't have imagined that I actually had the capacity to do until I was put in a situation and God strengthened me to do it. And it was God strengthening me to do it. Because I remember being like, God, but I don't know how to love in this situation. I don't know how to serve in this situation. Will you just help me? Will you give me compassion? Will you give me understanding? Will you give me whatever it is that I need? And he would do it. He would come through. And so he's growing you. He's stretching your limits, you know, in times of difficulty. He's teaching your hands to war. This is the psalm, right? It says, praise the Lord who is my rock. He trains my hands for war and gives my fingers skill for battle. So sometimes God just might knock the enemy out for you. But other times, he needs to teach you how to engage in hand-to-hand combat, right? When something comes up against you and you actually need to pick up your dukes and square up, right? And so that was really, really important. And what does fighting look like for a Christian? Because we're not actually going to slap somebody, although I wanted to sometimes, I'm not going to lie. We're not actually going to hurt anybody. So what does it look like for Christians to fight? Here's a scripture that tells us. Take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and have done all to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. So he teaches us to arm ourselves, right? He teaches us what to put on to protect ourselves, right? I'm not going to let evil thoughts come through my mind because everything has to go through the helmet of salvation, right? I'm not going to let condemnation take over me because I have on the breastplate of righteousness. I am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. I am not going to let these lies come and tell me about who my God is because I got my shield of faith, right? And I'm going to destroy every lie that comes against me by leaning on the word of God. It's my sword of the Spirit. And every lie that comes against me says, where is your God? He's not protecting me. He's not good. No, the Lord is good and his mercy endures forever. Sorry, I was going to throw my sword. You know, when you're afraid, God has not given me a spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. And you're fighting. And you know what? It may not always look like it looks right now. I'm not going to lie. There were times when I was laying in my bed, super weak, and I would suddenly feel moved to get up and start declaring the word of God. So I'm weak, upset, then I'm getting up da-da-da-da, declaring the word, da-da-da-da-da. And then I would fall back in my bed and still feel, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're pressing through weakness when you're fighting, but it's still a fight. Even if you're just like worshiping and you barely feel like it, that's still a fight, and he's teaching you how to do that more and more, better and better, right? He teaches us to fight with prophecies concerning us. That's what Paul wrote to Timothy. Using the prophecies concerning you, wage war, right? You're fighting for your destiny, right? So when things come against you, but you know that God has plans for you based on, you know, a burden that he's put on your heart, or a word that he put in his word that it has stood out to you, or even something that's been spoken over you before, you use that and you stand up and you say, no, like, I am going to reach nations for the gospel. This little thing right here is not taking me out. Yes. You know? I am going to be someone whose faith is restorative to other people's lives. So how am I going to have a shipwreck faith? It's not happening. You know? So you wage war with those prophecies that have been released over you. And so those are some of the ways that God can grow you in the midst of it. And then the last question that I wanted to consider is, you know, even when you think you're growing, even when you think God is growing you, sometimes you can question, like, is it really worth it, right? Because I would feel that way. Like, I already knew the classic Christian answer, God's growing you, and I'd be like, I don't care. Keep your growth. I don't need to grow. I'm fine. I'm not a baby. Like I'm a solid enough Christian. Like, dang. Like, I need to grow. I was like, I just felt like, God, I was telling him, like, sometimes I told him this even like recently, like, whatever growth you're trying to do in me, keep it, like, it's not worth it for the pain that I'm going through right now. And sometimes it can feel that way, right? But, so what makes it actually worth it? So the last part of the text I want to look at says, you will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot. And then later it says, I will rescue him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. So one, you will have victory. You will defeat your enemies. You will tread over the power of your enemy because Jesus already defeated your enemies. And that's an awesome thing to win, because with your victory comes victory for many other people whose lives you're going to touch, right? And there's a promotion that comes through crucifixion. There's a promotion that comes, because that's how Jesus got his, right? It says, being found in the appearance as man, he humbled himself by being obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. For this reason also, God highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name which is above every name. So that part of the psalm says, because he knows my name, because he holds fast to me, I will rescue him, I will honor him. There is honor, there is an upgrade in authority that's coming to you because of the things that you go through. And I know I would sometimes feel like, well, couldn't I have just like skipped to the victory part? Like, couldn't I have the same impact without all of this suffering? But this is what the Bible says. It says that a seed that just falls on its own, or a seed that just grows on its own is one thing. How do I explain it? I'm trying to paraphrase. But it's basically a verse about when something falls, like a seed falls in the ground, it can create much more fruit, like if it dies first in the ground and like sprouts more. And basically what I'm trying to say there is that a resurrected life reaps way more power than an undisturbed life. So like if you feel like you're dying, if you feel like things are dying, if you feel like your hope is dying, God will resurrect, and there will be greater power in the resurrection than there even was in the first round. But this is the real, and this is what I'm going to close on, because this is where I really, really took away from this, like, from everything that happened. I really felt like it's what I can say, okay, this is worth it. I wasn't able to come up with all the answers for why everything happened to me. I wasn't able to even know exactly how I grew or whatever came out of it. But whenever I look back on the things that I've been through, I can point out and say, God was with me. And I came to know him in a deeper way in that time. That's what's worth it. You learn to commit yourself to God and not to yourself. Before the things that I went through, I was committed kind of like to my own, like I think to my own just like Christian life, you know, like almost like God is a formula for like what's going to turn out to be a great life, right, for the kingdom. But when you feel like you're dying to yourself, then you learn what it is to commit yourself to God, right? And so I just came to know him in a deeper way. I remember Rachel told me, you know, you want, you know, this happy-go-lucky life, or just words, and she was like, but God's grace isn't that shallow. Don't you want to know how his grace is with you in the highest places, but also reaches down to your darkest places? And I was like, no. but in hindsight, God, it's invaluable. It's invaluable to know how like His grace really does reach deep. And now my worship, it just has a different flavor, because it's like when you talk about having gone through something, it changes your worship because you know a new aspect of God. There's a certain intimacy that comes with being completely and wholly dependent on God. There's an intimacy of dependency. There's a verse in Song of Solomon that says, "Who is this coming out of the wilderness leaning on her beloved?" And I just remember one time in worship, God just having this image come to my mind of like Jesus just like carrying me like a damsel in distress out of the wilderness, and He looked all valiant, like, it was like something out of a movie. I was like, wow, God. But honestly, it made me break down crying, because it was like, that was me. I couldn't walk for myself. I couldn't carry myself. God carried me through it. And for that, I love Him. And so that's what I hope that you know that you'll walk away from. Just coming to be able to cling with God, cling to God in a way. And know Him as your protector, your defender in a new way. So just to recap, God's identity as our protector is unshakable. He's constant. He's a constant fortress. He is constantly our dwelling place. His protection still stands, and in fact is even more so proven during the storm, during the fire. Our crippled position reveals who our Father is. And knowing God will be worth it. That's what I want you guys to know. And yeah, whenever you go through things, just like don't be afraid to take your questions to God. Press into worship because He's still who He is. Meditate on His word because it will strengthen you. And just stand in faith, and God will see you through. And the last thing, when you come out of it, and this is a temptation that I've had, don't try to become your own protector as a result of seeing that God will allow hard things to happen to you. That was a huge temptation for me. Like, after coming out of it, being like, okay, glad we got through that, but now let me put up all these walls and all these parameters to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's so much sweeter to trust in God for every step, knowing that He will never lead you anywhere where His grace won't follow. So yeah, I'll just pray us out. Dear Father God, Lord, I just thank you for this night. Lord, I thank you for this time we've had to just delve into your word, to delve into who you are. And God, I just pray that in this next worship set, God, I pray that your word has really taken root in somebody's heart tonight, God. And I pray that you would just water that seed in their lives and help them to come to know you in a new way as a result. God, I pray that you would really help people to wrestle with you through their hardships, God, to really come to a deep knowledge of what it is for you to be their protector, not just a Bible book knowledge. God, that you would really, and I know you'll be faithful to them through that process, God, so just give them a reassurance of how your love never fails, how your love never fades, and just how you are truly their protector and truly their good Father. So we pray all these things in Jesus' name.